Hi guys! So I just filmed my video about my favorite books from my childhood, so I will link that below. Now I'm going to talk about my favorite authors and books from high school. And I'm doing these videos so that, I'm new to BookTube, and so I'm trying to find, I've already found so many awesome people to connect with, and I'm so excited to read more books that are out now because I haven't really read a whole lot of new releases in the past couple of years, and seeing all these, I can't wait to read some of them. But I thought that I would make these videos so that you can watch them and get an idea of what I really like, my tastes growing up, which this does not even cover even a fraction of it. I love to read and I love lots of different genres. I'll just give you some of the most powerful, impactful things that I read in high school that I really, really loved. So the first one I'll talk about is Dune. I stole this copy from my dad. It did not have a jacket on it, and I don't know if I'll ever give it back. I read this. Actually, I wanted to read this when I was about 9, I think, because my dad and I were always talking about sci-fi and fantasy, and we'd have these philosophical discussions about stuff. And so he showed me some clips from the movie or the TV movie, and we were talking about Dune. He was talking to me about it, and I was like, I want to read it, Dad. Let me read it. Just let me read it. It sounds amazing. But he said no, and he wouldn't let me read it until I was older because it was so political. And he explained this to me. He wanted me to fully grasp and understand all the political machinations behind everything. And so I didn't get to read it, and then I remembered it and read it when I was 16, and oh my, I loved this book. The Litany of Fear I used to have memorized, and now I need to go memorize it again. Litany Against Fear, just the Bene Gesserit, just the whole thing. I don't know why I liked it so much at 16, but it just drew me in. I used to recite the Litany of Fear all the time, and I just loved this book. But then I didn't read it again until last year, I think. I actually got the audiobook, which I highly recommend. It's I don't know if it's fully cast, because it seems fully cast. They have a bunch of different voice actors, but they'll have one voice actor doing a chapter and then switching back and forth for different types of scenes. But it is so well done. There's even sounds and stuff in it sometimes. But when I listened to it again, oh my gosh, I had this epiphany of no wonder I loved it so much, because it's basically mindfulness meditation that they're talking about. This thing that I'm passionate about, meditation, spiritual growth, and having control over your emotions and your physical body, and the Bene Gesserit and the things that they can do, being able to not be poisoned. They can ingest poison, but they can change it inside their bodies molecularly. And I ended up listening to the whole series, except for I haven't finished the last one. And I do this thing where if I wait too long, then I have to go start at the beginning again. But if I've read it all recently, then I need to wait a little longer. So I'm waiting a little longer before I restart the whole series, and I'll probably do videos on each of them because it floors me. I love the way that Frank Herbert writes. I love how we can go into, I don't know, his perspective. I forget what it's called. It's just, I just love all of it. I love all of it. The crazy, galactic, political, almost Cold War, and not Cold War, but I don't know, there's this, the spice, this geriatric spice that everybody wants. It keeps you living longer, keeps you younger, but it also causes an addiction that causes foresight, and there's just, I just love this sci-fi so much. So that one definitely had a big impact on me in high school. Another series that I just loved, I don't know if it had a big impact on me, but I just loved it because of my own interests in witchcraft and paganism, and so finding books about that, which I hadn't really before these. And honestly, I realized that I haven't read enough witchy books. So I'm really excited to read more witchy books, because this series compared to others, I can't really compare them. But this was the first real, like, super witchy series that I read, and it's called Sweep. This first one, Book of Shadows. I don't have all of them yet, but I also have a different version for the rest of the ones that I have. And I've read them all. I got the rest of them at the library, but I would like to complete my set. And this series follows this girl who, of course, Hawkeye comes to school and he invites these students to come and try out this Wiccan circle. And so she goes, she's a shy girl, and she goes, ooh. Okay, so the back. Something is happening to me that I don't understand. I see things, feel things in a new way. I can do things normal people can't do. Powerful things, magical things. It scares me. I never chose to learn witchcraft, but I'm starting to wonder if witchcraft is choosing me. So basically, it's definitely high school drama. It's definitely YA. But I just loved it because it was pretty much the only witchy book I had read at the time, and I'd been studying witchcraft for a while before that, so I haven't reread it in a while, so I don't really know how accurate it was, but it was accurate enough that I was like, oh, they know what they're talking about. Oh my gosh. And to have her describe, like, actually meditating and actually feeling magic, I loved it. And I definitely want to reread it, though, because I feel like I wasn't that happy with how it all ended. But I remember really loving it, and I read them over and over again in high school. So now, when I was in high school, people would ask me who my favorite authors were, who my favorite books were. I always said I had 3 favorite authors, and they were Laurel K. Hamilton, Haruki Murakami, and Neil Gaiman. So I'll start with Haruki Murakami. This is actually the only book I have of his right now. I used to have more. I lent one out, and one of them I think I had borrowed. But Haruki Murakami is, I'm covering it up because it's broken. I know I got this somewhere else. I want nicer copies of his books. I haven't read enough of his books, though. But Haruki Murakami is a Japanese author. They're translated. The first one I read of his was The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, and it floored me. It was so, like, existential and crazy, and, like, it seemed like, I guess, contemporary, but then there's, like, some supernatural stuff or unexplained stuff that happens in this story. And the way that he writes is so beautiful, even in the translation. And the way that I used to describe it is like he could describe something out of the ordinary, like fantastic, something that's impossible in real life. He could describe that happening as if it's, just happening. But then the way that he would describe a woman's ear, just so beautiful. I loved these books. This one in particular is one of those books that I read where after I read it and I closed the book and I finished the book, it felt like the world had shifted. And this is actually one of the only books I have reviewed on Goodreads. I never liked to review books. I don't like to upset people. So the only books I've reviewed are 5 stars. I was looking at them the other day since I started the booktube. I've only reviewed 8 books on there. And I've read almost 400 on there, which is not even all of them. I still have to go through. But I know that I'm going to be starting to review. But before I review books that I loved back then, I definitely want to sort of practice my critical eye, because I just loved them back then so much that I'm wondering if I have a bias, and if there are problems that I didn't notice back then. But at the same time, I loved his books. This one, After Dark, was intense for me. I read After Dark on a bench in downtown Santa Cruz right after I bought it. I just read through the whole thing on a bench, and it's just like, So yeah, his books get me like in a weird headspace, but I loved them. Then of course, Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite authors. Good Omens was, I think, one of the first things I read with him, and Terry Pratchett, I think, is the other author. I'll have to double check that, but I love Good Omens. I would show you, but it's actually in the other room. I wanted to reread it before I watched the show. And let's see. So actually the first time that I encountered Neil Gaiman was with the Sandman graphic novels, and I didn't grab the rest of the series, but this one, the first one, Preludes and Nocturnes, this follows Dream, the Sandman, and basically there are these immortals who, all these siblings, I believe there's 7 of them, and they all have like dominion over some aspect of life, and he has dominion over dreams. He has control, power. He can affect people in dreams, and basically has this whole dream world that is his kingdom. And his sister, Death, I've been her for Halloween twice. I adore her. She's the cutest little goth girl in the world, and I love her. But these books were so powerful, and I noticed that was a similar thing to what Haruki Murakami does, is that Neil Gaiman can write things that are so fantastic and out of this world, but make them feel so real. But then the way that he describes something that is real is so fantastic, and is so, he just brings me to another world. And the art is always changing in these too. They have a lot of different artists. I will definitely reread these and do a review on them. Oh yeah, he goes to hell, and oh, it's just, I love this series so much. I also enjoyed this one. I need to reread it again. It's been a long time. Neverwhere. Neil Gaiman, pretty much everything that he does, I love. I've been listening to the audiobook of American Gods because I wanted to watch that before the show too, or listen to that. And I actually need to finish it. It's really, really long. I read that in high school and loved it. It like totally put me in a weird headspace. Basically about this man. I don't even know if I'm going to describe that. I'm going to finish it and then I'll do a review on it. The audiobook is great too. That one is fully cast and it's so good. I don't know why I haven't finished it yet, but I will. This next book, I had borrowed the copy that I had of it and had to give it back. But I actually found this weird audio thing at a book sale for $3, so I just got it because this was my favorite of his, the Anansi Boys, and I need to get a new copy of the physical book because it's one of my favorites, and it follows, let's see. Returning to the territory he so brilliantly explored in his masterful American Gods. Let's see. He offers a work of dazzling ingenuity, a kaleidoscopic journey deep into myth that is at once startling, terrifying, exhilarating, and fiercely funny. Okay, that didn't really talk about it. Basically, that's why I love him, because I love mythology, and he does these like twists on mythology. So they're gods, but like in the modern day. How they would be now, what their life is like without being worshipped anymore. What are their powers like since they're not worshipped anymore? And he's got a darkness to a lot of his stuff, but just fantastic. I love it. I started Stardust because I love the movie so much, and I normally read the books before the movie, but the movie's really good, so I need to finish the book. Anyway, yes, Neil Gaiman will forever be one of my faves, and I need to catch up on all of his works. Now, this last one, my last favorite author that I would say, my top 3 favorite authors in high school, her name is Laurel K. Hamilton. Mentioned her a little bit in my currently reading. So, these books I got from my best friend in high school, and I never really knew what genre they were. In my head, I called them erotica because I've never read erotica except for this. And I'm guessing, I think that they're like urban fantasy or urban paranormal erotica or adult urban fantasy or something. I don't know if it would be called adult or erotica, but they are very, very graphic with the sex. So I will just tell you that. Very, very graphic with the sex. And I don't care. I love them. That's an aspect of them that I could do with or without, except for one of the series is kind of a big plot point. Actually, for both of them, it ends up being a big plot point. But I just love the characters. I love the world. I love the grittiness, I'll just show you. So, the first one I know, and I had some of the older copies that I have, like the newer versions of them look like much less sexual too. So reading these in public was always super embarrassing, but the older ones I have. This is the first one of the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series by Laurel K. Hamilton. And oh my. These don't get too graphic until much later. So I think you can read like the first 5 or 6 books without the main character like having sex. But she is an animator. She raises the dead for a living, and lots of cute stuff talking about that. So basically, vampires have become legal citizens of the United States. And I remember when I saw True Blood, I was like, they should have done Nita Blake before they did that. But I haven't read those books, but I do love that show, so I let it slide. But vampires are legal citizens. Before they were legal citizens, she used to go and kill them. You know, vampires who would go off on killing sprees, she would go and kill them. But she still does, only now legally. Basically, vampires aren't tried for murder. They are executed for murder. So she is one of the few executioners. Because of her like abilities over the dead, she has some resistance to their mind powers and stuff like that. So she does her animating job where she raises zombies for like legal reasons, for like wills and stuff, and for other things. People hire her like a lot of money to have her raise a zombie, and they talk to it, like murder victims sometimes and stuff like that. But then she also works with the police on these gruesome crimes. So it's like a lot of murder mystery stuff. It's a lot of very gory violence and descriptions of blood and bodies. So if that's not your thing, I wouldn't recommend it. And if you don't like graphic sex, I wouldn't recommend her series. But if you like nitty gritty, dark, paranormal stuff, I'm obsessed with her so much. And I love Anita. I also have a graphic novel version of this I'll show you guys at another time. I want to reread these because like I do with all of the books that I love, whenever a new one comes out, I would reread the whole series. And if I've waited too long, I will definitely reread the whole series before. But let me show you, I don't even have all of these. So look at all these. And then look at all these. And there's more. I don't even have all of them. So that's a lot. So I am behind. And so I'm probably going to just bite the bullet and get all of those audiobooks and listen to all of them. And then get the newer ones so I can catch up with what's going on with Anita, because I need to know. And also another theme that happens in both of her series, I'll talk about the other one in a second, is a theme of polyamory, which I love that it's there. I do wish that she had, just for my personal enjoyment, I wish that she had more LGBTQ, everybody in there, especially from that perspective, but I understand the writer is not. She is super hetero. So even though she tries to include it, from the main character's perspective, it doesn't happen just because she doesn't know how to write it, I think, is the thing. So that's okay. I'm not mad at her about it. I still love and enjoy the series. I just wish, I like the ladies, so I just wish there were more main character goodies, especially from this main character would be perfect, but it's okay. This, I think, is actually my favorite series, and I told you I'm listening to the audiobook of this again, Kiss of Shadows. I love this. This is a Mary Gentry series. These were my original Sexy Fae. If you saw my video about my currently reading, I talked about that. I love this. This is an urban fantasy where the main character, Meredith Gentry, Princess of the High Court of Fairy, is posing as a human in Los Angeles, working as a PI, specializing in supernatural crime. But now the Queen's assassin has been sent, dispatched to fetch her back, whether she likes it or not. Suddenly Meredith finds herself a pawn in her dreaded aunt's plans, the job that awaits her. Enjoy the constant company of the most beautiful immortal men in the world. The reward, the crown, and the opportunity to continue to live. The penalty for failure, death. So basically, it's like a reverse harem, and she is, being told that she can have the crown, but her cousin is also vying for the crown, and so the first one of them to get pregnant will get the crown. There's a lot of violence, a lot of murder mystery stuff going on in this too, and something I didn't mention about her Anita Blake books. I just love how Laurel K. Hamilton does so much research about stuff. Like she does intense amounts of research about, like, if she's going to go have her character go to a new town, she'll literally go live in that town and get to know people and talk to the police there. She knows all about the guns and the weapons that the characters use. She also, the way she describes, like, getting weapons to fit in, like, purses and underneath sexy women's clothing, I always find amusing. Like, she literally, like, tried this stuff out, which I think is, sometimes it can almost be too much of a description of stuff, but I really like it. It really makes me feel like I'm trying to put a machete in this sheath down my spine and hide it with my hair. I love that stuff. But she is descended from fertility goddesses, and there's this crazy stuff that's going on. Basically, magic has been diminishing in the fairy court, and they live here in America now, but they have to, like, follow these certain rules in order to not be exiled from the country. And now Meredith, as she's going back, magic is starting to come back, and there's just crazy stuff. I love mythology, so I love that some of these characters were actual gods, and I love this series so much. But again, if you don't like graphic descriptions of violence and crime scenes, and you don't like graphic descriptions of sex, then I wouldn't recommend. But if you want some really, really sexy fairy people having sex and really great characters, really great, like, I love the politics of it and the different worlds, like the goblins and, like, all this stuff. I love it. And yes, so those were my favorite authors and books that I remember really loving in high school. So yeah, let me know if you read any of these, or if you'd like me to talk and do, like, a review on any of these. I definitely am going to be doing a lot of rereads soon to talk about my favorites, because I want them to be fresh in my head before I do a review on stuff. But I also am really excited to read a lot of these newer series that I've been seeing. So, just let me know if there's something you'd really like to learn more about, or if you've read them and also love them or hate them. I don't know. Just let me know. I'm having so much fun talking to you guys about what I love. So, yeah. Have a wonderful day. I will see you around the tubes.